Hello, welcome to what is now the second Transatlantic Tea Times, where I'm joined by my colleagues, Dan Rupprecht and Tim LaTulippe. I'm in my, we'll just call it secure, unfinished basement location. Clearly, gents, the two of you are not. So first question to Dan Rupprecht. Is that your castle or are you at the Abbey? Where exactly are you right now?
Yeah. Well, speaking of secure locations, that's exactly where I'm at. This is one of William the Conqueror's keeps. So I live in Guildford, which is about 40 minutes southwest of London. And the town originated as a sort of a gold producing area for the royalty, and basically was a place where they made coins, again, which is why it's called Guildford. And when William the Conqueror sort of conquered the island, he set up strategic keeps all along the southern border of England. And behind me is one of those keeps. And I think it was built, so you're talking around 1046, around that time. So we're looking at a castle that's about 1,000 years old. And then also of note, this is also what inspired Lewis Carroll in Alice in Wonderland. So he lived, actually, if I flip the camera, or if I turn around just this other way, he lived just over on this side. So when he was writing Alice in Wonderland and through the looking glass, he was walking through this park, and a lot of it inspired, the bowling green, right there. All of that is from the book. So my daughter, whose name is Alice, thinks this is her castle, but it's mine.
Perfect. I love that. I love it. Now, Tim, where are you? I can't even guess where you are right now.
Oh, it'll become apparent to you in a moment. I'm based in the city of London, as you know, and it's equally steeped in history. And because I didn't grow up here, I'm actually more likely to know about this stuff than the locals are, because you tend to learn things about it if you come later in life. But the thing behind me is actually a tribute to the late Prince Albert. He, of course, is popular for a lot of reasons, but one of the lesser known things is that he was pretty much coined or attributed to popularizing of Christmas trees in the window in the Christian world. So that kind of started in Germany or in the Nordics, bringing a tree inside the house. And the royal family is actually German, so it makes a lot of sense why that made its way over here. But America couldn't wait to put Christmas trees in the window. About 80 or 100 years after separating from the English in a bad divorce that you might remember. Across from me, about 20 meters, is the Royal Albert Hall, and this is about 150 years old. I've been to many concert galas there. I used to live down the road slightly, and it's hosted, bands like, members of Pink Floyd, the Austrian Orchestra, all kinds of amazing groups play here. And with COVID, it's been shut. It looks a little sad right now, but in the next couple of months, I think she'll be back open.
Yeah, excellent. Well, maybe on one of these recordings, I'll show the wonderful sights of New Jersey to the to the viewers. But a great description, by the way, Tim, for those who are perhaps listening to this as a podcast versus watching our video. For those on video, I'm not wearing some of my normal IDS gear. Some of you may notice that I'm actually wearing a Stoke City jersey. I felt like it was appropriate, guys, that in light of the launch of the Super League and then the 48-hour later demise of the Super League, that I wear the only football jersey that I have, and frankly, it's the only one I'll continue to wear until one of you sends me another jersey. I'll root for any team. Of course, disappointment for me is the one jersey that I own is for the team that was not invited. I heard they were on the cusp of being invited to the Super League. It was going to be, Man City or Stoke, and they went Man City. So it
was close.
Who did you hear that from? The other three fans with the same shirt?
Yeah.
I was going to say, who's the...
I was gonna say the sad thing is I don't know one player on Stoke City, and if I didn't share this on the other podcast, the jersey actually, my mom is English and she grew up in Barrow and Furness before she moved to the States when she was 18, and she went back for a visit. And I think that perhaps as she was leaving, she realized she should get a gift for her kids, and so she got three jerseys. One was of Wolverhampton, a Wolves jersey. One was a Scottish team jersey, and then she grabbed this one. And because of the red and white, she thought that it was a Team England jersey. And so for years, I didn't wear it, but I said, I've got an England jersey, until I wore it with some colleagues who were from England, and they said, that's not the country kit. You're wearing
correct me if I'm wrong. Dan might know this. I might be off by a day or two, but I think it's St. George's Day in England. Is it not? It's today, or it's not a public holiday anymore. But St. George's is a major day in UK history, or for English history, and that's where you see the traditional English cross, the white flag with the red cross. So I thought maybe you were wearing it to pay homage to St. George.
To St. George.
You know, that might be better. Maybe I should go with that instead of saying that I'm wearing the Stoke jersey. But good to know. Look at that. You know, useful information. You're sharing information about landmarks and significant dates over there. Yeah. You know, I was curious. You know, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you guys about how you ended up in the particular fields that you focus on. And so for Dan, really, you know, what brought you to going to law school, and then from law school, what got you into the world of consulting and doing what you do today?
Yeah, good question, because I mean, as everyone knows, in terms of sort of e-discovery and data interrogation, no one, at least 15, 20 years ago in sort of the law school realm, no one really went to law school for that. Many of us who practice and are consultants and advise on these types of matters sort of found our ways into these career paths through alternate routes. And mine was no different. I actually went to law school for environmental law, a different environmental law practice. And I graduated 2002. So if you do your math, we'll use numbers again. That puts you square in the election of Bush v. Gore. And I remember actually as a student staying up all night during that election, because you had Gore, who is arguably the strongest proponent for environmental management and regulation, versus Bush, who obviously had strong ties with the oil industry and Halliburton and all the rest. Without getting too much into history and politics, we all know how that hashed out, and in environmental law took a hit afterwards. I practiced for a couple of years with a small boutique firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. But based on the work that was coming out, these boutique firms couldn't maintain the practice as they once were able to, because EPA was no longer enforcing the regulations to the degree that they had been. So a lot of the partners moved on to larger firms, and I sort of started reevaluating where I wanted to go. And at that stage, I was thinking government. So I moved to Washington, D.C., and started applying to EPA and sort of government regulatory agencies, again, who were on hiring freezes at the time. And it was at that point that I met some individuals at a law firm, Cleary Gottlieb, started working very closely with them on their discovery matters and using electronic technologies and tools to get through the large volumes on their big matters, and found I had not just an aptitude towards it, but a real interest in it. It really was something that I went headfirst into, really. I think the types of matters that we were involved in, these large-scale investigations and large-scale mergers, really required you to learn a lot about various industries very quickly and become experts very quickly, while utilizing tools to get to the information that we needed to build our arguments and disclose to the various regulators. So really it came from that. And as I started growing within the firm and really starting to help lead certain areas of it, I moved to Brussels, and as I've mentioned on the last call or on the last talk, helped sort of build out that team and work with the head of e-discovery over there to really harness technologies in new and creative ways. My trajectory has constantly been on this sort of building block momentum of how is technology and the law sort of crossing paths, where are those intersections, and what advantages can we get from these various tools that we operate with on a daily basis. So even though I went to school for environmental law, I think I still kept the E in there somewhere, and I'm very happy that I've done. It's allowed me to travel the world. I now live in England, close to family, where my mother grew up, and I have cousins and aunts and uncles everywhere. So it's been a strange road, but one that I wouldn't change for the world.
Rumor has it that you wanted to get into e-discovery so that you didn't have to change that giant tattoo that you have, which
The
on
big
our
E on my back,
yeah. yeah. On our third Transatlantic Tea Time, maybe we'll have you bust that one out. So I mean, which you know, Tim, before we switch to you and how you decided to get into this field, I know you actually have a tattoo, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I'll admit to the one, I guess. Yeah, I actually have 5.
Yeah, let's admit to the let's so all right. So I won't ask you about the 5, but for those who for those of us who've seen Tim in short sleeves or even a sleeve pulled up, there is one on his forearm that maybe we'll get a story about. But like I said, we won't make you talk about your tattoos until we make Rup show his giant E tattoo. Tim, how'd you get into this field?
Yeah, good question. It's a question that I haven't been asked in a long time, and it's one that I used to avoid, and now I enjoy it. Because when I started getting into this, it was very much from an electronic investigation perspective. I'm not a qualified lawyer like Dan. I don't have 15 years of legal training and experience. I sort of come at from a more technology driven approach. So it kind of helps paint the picture why Dan and I work together so well. His background is very legal driven, and he has a mastery and an understanding of law. And I really bake myself in technology, in the inner workings of technology, and I sort of learn about the law in consulting engagements and kind of through osmosis. I've never been to law school, but it interests me, so it's a good field to be in. I started doing this with one of the first digital forensics curriculum, first educational programs in the country in Vermont, where I grew up. Data forensics at that time was really stuck in local law enforcement, and to some extent at the FBI level. The RCFL, the Regional Computer Forensic Labs, they were using software and certain techniques to make sure child abusers and dangerous criminals were being brought to justice, and the electronic evidence was being considered. It was really kind of nascent in the e-discovery phase. Most of e-discovery at that time was, as you guys know well, was just scanning bankers' boxes full of paper and making sure they were searchable. So I was kind of on the the early edge of this, and I was lucky to work with a lot of people who had been doing it for a long time. Gary Kessler, if he ever watches this, a major fan. He was a thesis advisor of mine. He's worked in data forensics forever. Warren Cruz, family friend, longtime mentor friend. People like Anton Litchfield, people that I adore and learned a lot from over the years. They all had prior experience in that law enforcement space. And I did that as well to some extent. I'd coming out of university, I was interviewed and flown down to Fort Meade by the National Security Agency. Several different intelligence community kind of opportunities. The war on terror was very, very hot and heavy at that time. We had just gone into Afghanistan, in the United States, so there was definitely an interest in altruism and learning from that perspective. But ultimately, I was eventually lured away by sunshine out in Phoenix, and I worked for a recovery provider out there. Eventually, I moved to California, and I had a heavy focus on computer and digital forensics. I worked for a small firm supporting the U.S. Attorney's Office in California, working with the Department of Defense in Pendleton, NCIS up there on the Navy base, and really got a lot of courtroom and testifying experience earlier in my career than I probably should have, to be honest with you. I got thrown into a hot seat pretty damn quick, but it's one of those things where you kind of need credit to get credit in those credit card scenarios. And honestly, I don't think there's ever too soon. I mean, if you're in it 2 years, maybe it's too soon, but I know guys that have been doing this for 15, 20 years and they never get called to testify. So it's good to take that challenge if it comes your way. But after that, I continued to work for consultancies supporting cross-border litigation, responding to regulatory requests up in San Francisco. And then, many years ago, I came to London to build out the European practice of an American company. My wife's born and raised in Paris, so it made a lot of sense for us to be next to Paris. The ultimatum was to come here anyway at some point. Too tired of living back over that way. So it was really a good chance to expand my career, work with different legal systems. It's very different in Europe. On the continent in particular, they don't have massive discovery and disclosure regimes. They don't sort of frivolously sue each other left and right. So the cases we work on tend to be bigger ticket investigations, but less frequent. And it's the kind of work that I really enjoy. I guess I'm jumping around a bit, but my interest in this, actually, I sort of forgot to mention, my interest in this started probably in the 90s when I was asked by somebody, a family friend, to look into something on a computer for somebody. I won't expose any details. As I say it out loud, I want to be sensible, but they wanted me to look into something on a computer, and I was using my teenage hacking years to kind of figure out what had happened on that computer. Then I realized there might be a career opportunity in this. So in between landscaping and all the outdoor work I was doing, I focused on reverse engineering computers, finding out what information's left behind. And I've never really stopped doing that. I've done it in different countries and with different people. But now I'm fine. We're finally on the right team, and I'm in the right place where hopefully we do it for the next 20 years.
Yeah. No, really interesting, and glad you guys both shared those two different paths. And I agree. I think that it allows you guys to complement each other with your separate strengths. It's why I know, at least for European clients, they get to see both of you usually in a meeting or a presentation. So that leads to the next question, which is, which of you is Batman and which one is Robin? Or are we talking a different dynamic duo when you guys approach these things?
Well, I don't know. I'll let Dan take that one. Dan's kids think he's Batman, so maybe we go with that.
My daughter actually does think I'm Batman. That is true.
There you go.
What I would say is I would say it depends on the topic. I mean, there are certain areas that Tim has a very specific expertise that I just simply can't match or shouldn't be speaking about if he's in the same room. And then vice versa. We, as you just mentioned, we've come to this from very different perspectives and very different career paths, and that exposed us to a myriad of different opportunities and subject matters. So in terms of how we lead, I mean, one of the great reasons why we partner so well together is that we do know when and where to step forward or step back. We don't play an ego game. We're very much a team. We see that our value comes in making sure that the end client understands, what opportunities or advantages are out there through technology and how that's delivered. It doesn't matter who delivers it. It's who delivers it best.
See, I was going to give Tim the out of being able to say, I think I'm more like Alfred, because frankly, based on what I know about the two of you, I would trust something that Tim has constructed out of nothing versus you, Dan. I'm afraid that if you did it, there'd be some extra screws lying around and maybe a brace here or there.
Hey, look, you got to remember the last name is Rupprecht, which is very German. So what I do know how to do is follow instructions really well and put things together in perfect unison. So don't
I agree with Dan.
don't think about the cultural history.
You might have gotten that backwards. I'm good at taking things apart, not so much building them. Ask my wife. I built a baby crib. It took like 5 beers and 6 hours for me to do it.
All right. So what we'll do is I'll just make sure that if we edit this out, we'll that question will go out, and I'll let Dan be our Alfred. Let me ask this what may be our last question, because I can't wait till our third, and then we've been going a little while here. But you both have mentioned you've lived in different places throughout all the years, and I've moved from the East Coast to New Mexico, so the Southwest U.S. to California, and then back to the East Coast for law school, where I settled down. You guys have been to some much more exotic locations, perhaps. But of all the places that you've lived, I'm just curious, what's been your favorite and why?
I guess I can go first. I mean, in terms of the best fit at the right time, I mean, it sounds a bit cheesy, but right now is the perfect spot. Raising a family just outside of a city like London, but have the green space and, my own castle, all of that. It is a perfect environment for bringing up a family, starting a career, building a career, all of it. It ticks all the boxes. But that said, if I talk about adventure and cultural experience and being out of my comfort zone, Brussels, I mean, that will always have a soft spot in my heart. Center of Europe, doorstep to virtually everywhere. I was in a different country almost every week, as a tourist, and also being close to family in Germany. It's 5 years of my life that I'm sure. When I'm old and gray and looking back, that 5-year period is going to have a special place. So I love where I'm at, but that definitely has a soft spot.
Nice. Tim, what about you?
Yeah, good answers, Dan. Equally, the best place for me is London. Unsurprisingly, I would have moved after all these years if that weren't the case. But I mean, spring here is brilliant. Let me look at it. But I guess this is the place where I've had probably the most adventure in my life, apart from, some data collection stuff years ago when I was single, flying around the world. But my baby was born here. My wife and I have had friends from all over the world stay with us here. We've done some pretty incredible things here. This is probably the #1 city in the world for just about everything. That might, the rankings might say Tokyo one year or Paris some other year, but I think London's top. And apart from that, being in Paris is always amazing. I always have very emotional memories about spending boatloads of time in Paris. We more or less take up residence there in normal times, and that's being out of your comfort zone, like Dan said. It's definitely a lot different than what I'm used to in England or America, and they certainly know how to enjoy life quite a bit better than the rest of us. And then I guess tied for third, or in third place, would be San Francisco. My wife and I we didn't have the baby yet. We both had extra time in the evenings. There's boatloads of great restaurants and food in San Francisco. So probably those three. But London is the one I rate the best.
Cool. Well, and I like the little stories tied to each, or why they're special. So appreciate you guys sharing that. I'd be remiss if I didn't say you guys look good with those haircuts. It's been a while since 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 we saw you groomed like that. So very, very nice. I want to thank Dan Rupprecht and Tim LaTulippe for joining me in our Transatlantic Tea Time. If you are interested in hearing more conversations with the three of us, please go to our YouTube channel to watch the video. That's IDS Talks, all caps. Or you go to your where you get your podcasts, and we're also there as IDS Talks. So we'd love to have you subscribe, and look forward to all of you joining us next time. So again, guys, thanks a lot. The weather looks great. I'm super jealous. I'm looking forward to when we do one of these and I get to enjoy the blue skies with you. So cheers.